Happy Multichrome Monday. You know what this means, and I'm so excited. I'm going to be swatching all the new shades from Clionadh, the addition to their stained glass collection. But first, let's just look at these pristine shadows. They're so fun to look at. It literally looks just like a wall of stained glass. Just so colorful and a few different textures. Thank you so much to Clionadh Cosmetics for sending me all these shadows for me to swatch for you ahead of the launch. There are some new formulas in here as well as additions to their current formulas that are part of the stained glass collection. There's over 50 shades to swatch, and I'm not going to be swatching them by formula. I'm actually going to be swatching them by color similarity because that way it saves me a little bit of time. So I will also be doing comparisons to the rest of the stained glass collection as well as other brands, and that will be in the second portion of this video. So let's get right into it. First up for comparisons is the new Glacier's Mark and the old Glacier's Mark, which are the first two swatches, and then below that is Chill, the new one, and the old. I think if you already had Chill, I would say maybe get the new one, but maybe not the new Glacier's Mark if you already have the old though you can see like they're pretty similar, but they definitely look different enough. For these next swatch comparisons, I actually think Retro from Shine by SD is pretty much right on par. So if you already have Retro, then I don't think you will need Motif. And then Heirloom and Draco, as you can see, they're pretty different, but they do look just a little bit similar in the pen, so I wanted to throw them in here since one of them is another Clionadh shade. Next up, this was a little bit harder to find because the tone of Noble and Quest is so particular. I have a bunch of similar-ish shades from Shine by SD, but they're just all different. Like that, you might think that they look similar, but they're pretty different. I do feel like some of these don't shift as much. So Noble, you can see the shift is just not as obvious as, for example, Quest and Galaxy. These next ones are so beautiful. So Diadem definitely looks pretty similar to the Cosmos. Definitely a different texture though. The Cosmos is flakier, though it does smooth out, especially if you use it with a finger, but it can kind of apply and be chunky like in the pan. You can definitely tell a difference in texture. So these are pretty similar, but also they have a little bit of a difference. Do you need both of them? I think that's totally up to you if you feel like that shift is different enough. But I think straight on, they're quite similar. I think if you were to use these together on the lid, you might not necessarily like be able to tell a difference. And then Flagstone and Big Dipper are pretty different. They looked pretty similar in the pan. At a certain angle, Mural and Ganymede look very, very similar, but you can tell, especially in this angle, they are quite different because of the shift. It's definitely more red on Mural, and the Ganymede is more of a pink, so quite different. And then Yellow and Shattered Stars, pretty similar, slight tonal difference, but otherwise I think if you have already Shattered Stars, then you might not feel like you might need Yellow. Oriel, definitely, I immediately thought of these shades as being similar, especially Dragontini from the Dragon Fruit palette. I think they're very, very similar. So if you didn't want to buy that highlighter version of it, I think you could get a pretty similar vibe with Oriel. Though they're not like exactly the same, I do think Oriel is probably more shifty. There's some very slight differences, but I think they kind of give off the same vibe. If you were to pair these with the same mattes, I think you would get a pretty similar look. Thought Emblem and Dreamcatcher were pretty similar, but as you can see, they are a little bit unstraight on, but the shift is a little bit different. And then Zoisite and Perihelion they just have way more of a teal base to them compared to Dreamcatcher, especially. Maybe a little bit closer to Emblem, but Perihelion has more of a reddish shift versus pink, which is in Emblem. Nothing too close to Topiary. Coalescence and Orion are definitely much lighter, different toned. Topiary has a much greener base to it. And then Galactic, Mint, and Phases are pretty different. Cerulean has a very light base to it. The shift is somewhat similar, and even straight on it is a little bit similar, but Tapestry is definitely way darker, has a little bit more of a base to it. And then Abrasion and Grisaille have a very brownish reddish base to them. So I do think that Cerulean is pretty different from all of these. I had nothing similar to Empress, but definitely Rayonant Glam Rush is pretty similar. The shift is a little bit different, though it is also a little bit more obvious in Glam Rush. Spectre and Devinah I thought would be very, very similar. While they are somewhat similar, straight on is actually more close to Break of Dawn, but the shift is different between Spectre and Break of Dawn, as well as Toucan. Royal Pear, it is pretty unique. It has a very, very strong green, like a super grungy green shift to it. And I thought it was going to be very similar to these other shades, but it's not. If anything, it is the most similar to Bizarre. Another comparison that I thought would be all very similar, but Lapis Lazuli has a very light base. It is a different tone of blue, and it's probably because it doesn't have the reddish base of Medieval. Similar vibes between Flashed Glass and Perp, but Flashed Glass, it has a darker base to it. And then King's Feast and Starfire are extremely similar. Definitely would recommend just getting one or the other. They're very, very, very close in tone. Next up is a comparison between all of Clionadh shades. I thought this one would be very helpful. Queen's Banquet is very close to Roseline. I mean, the difference is in the shift. I would say Queen's Banquet has a stronger shift. Trinket and Axis, I would say, are the most similar to each other. The texture is a little bit different. The sparkle is a little bit different. And Trinket definitely has a bit more of that flash of like bluish green straight on versus Access you can see the base through it straight on. Nothing really similar here, coat of arms versus shard. Iron Gate and Atomic Division I thought looked pretty similar in the pan, but they actually turn out to be a bit different once swatched, but I don't really think you would necessarily need both of them if you already had Atomic Division. All Clionadh shadows, once again, just thought some of these pastel multichromes from the previous launch of the stained glass collection, some of these might be similar. Maybe there's some slight tone similarities, but definitely not the shift. The new shades are shifty. Lots of similar shades here between some other Clionadh shades as well as a touch of Glam's 23rd. I think 23rd is the closest. But you can see the different bases that they have, but the similarity straight on. I really feel like maybe if you pair these with different mattes, you could tell the difference, but otherwise, I don't know if you would necessarily need to have all of these shades. Some more similar tones. I don't think there's any dupes within these, except maybe Ochre and Titan being very, very similar. But otherwise, I think you kind of get the vibe of these. Again, no need to have all of them. Citron and Space Case are basically identical in the texture, the way they swatch, the way they feel, the way they look, the shift. And then Hedge Maze and Artemis I thought would be a little bit more similar, but Hedge Maze is darker and has a bit of a different tone. Lots of similar vibes here as well, Romantic being the lightest tone, Saffron Vermilion, very, very, very close, slight tonal difference as in the shift and straight on. Another bunch of similar kind of tones, Vermilion being the one that stands out, but otherwise lots of similar, very bright types of kind of burnt orange vibes. I absolutely love these shades, but there's definitely some extreme similarities, just slight tonal differences here. Next up, Radiance, I thought was actually going to look just like any of these other shadows, but it has a very unique tone of blue shift that I don't have in any other iridescent multichrome, so that is amazing. I would definitely recommend this one if you love iridescent multichromes. I think this is a really nice shade to have. Lucidium has a little bit of uniqueness to it as well. It has like somewhat of a different base from these, but you can see there's quite a bit of similarity, so I don't think this one is as unique as Radiance. Lots of similarities here. The shifts are a bit different between all of these. Wall of Ivy having a little bit of a different tone of purple in the shift, and then M51 obviously and Astral have a red shift, so they're pretty different, but like again straight on, pretty similar, and I think these are going to all give off the same vibe on the lid. Viridian is not really that shifty. It is an interesting kind of tone of green that really sets it apart from these other shades, but as you can see, the shift is very, very subtle. Somewhat similar shades in here. Shifts are also pretty similar. Slight pink tonal differences between all of these. Definitely would say like pick one or two shades from here and I think you would be all set. Lots to compare on this one. Tessera is basically Lucid Lavender, but from Clionadh. These are all very, very smooth shades. I didn't really have much to compare to Hilt. It does have a little bit of uniqueness to it, but as you can see, it's pretty similar to some of these other shades, but it has like a peachy flash to it straight on compared to these other shades. Here we are with the not so perfect shadow pans now that they have all been swatched and compared. I really hope this video was helpful. Stay tuned for some more content with these shadows. I do plan on doing dedicated videos on the new formulas within the stained glass collection, so the pearlescent ones, electric, and earth, where I'm going to be creating a couple of looks and pairing these with some matte eyeshadows. Unfortunately, I was not able to do multiple looks for this video, especially when there's 56 shadows. Of course, you don't need all of them. I think you could really tell which ones are unique, and the ones that you did not see compared at all, that means that I didn't find anything in my collection to even compare them to. But let me know in the comments below if there's any specific shadows that I might have from Terra Moons or Devinah, etc. And I can additionally compare them in my Instagram stories before the launch, which as of right now will be in the 8th of August. I do have a non-affiliated code with Clionadh Cosmetics. I will put it up on the screen in case you're interested. It does not apply on any of these stained glass collection shadows, but if you're interested in anything else on their website, then the discount code will work on that. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, I would love it if you subscribe. There's so much multichrome content operating my channel and much more to come. You don't want to miss out. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.